Hey fellas, welcome back. I'm Anthony Ball, and this is Working on It, Real Talk for Modern Men. And if you've been following me and watching my videos, you'll notice that most of my videos are done during the day. But today, we're doing a nighttime podcast, and I'm hoping that the bugs and the flies don't disrupt too much, but we shall see how that gets on. And it's quite relevant to the episode today that I wanted to bring, because it's part of the reasons why I am doing it at nighttime. And I want to discuss fatherhood and stepping into fatherhood, not by accident, but on purpose, intentionally, and bringing intention into that process as we go through our journeys with the kids. Right? Because most of us, we're not taught how to be a father or what it means to be a father, how to build a family, how to feel secure enough to step into fatherhood. Sometimes we've just been handed the role, or we believe we've been handed the role because we're not taking charge of our life or we're not being intentional with our actions for many reasons. And we can also fall into old patterns with work or this sense of work harder. I need to provide. I can't show emotionality. I need to stay strong. Don't show too much, and so on. And it can trigger many things in a positive and a negative way. And it's a very interesting journey. And I share this because our family, it's a young family. I have a son, 2.5 years old, and a daughter who is 8 months old. And it's been a journey of many learnings with the good and the bad and the ugly. And I think it's important to talk about it, to talk about what it is to be a father and stepping into that role. I want to share what I've learned, and that it's not just about physically being there, and that it's also about showing up emotionally. And that can bring discomfort for many men. A lot of the time, men can actually use work as a excuse to not spend time with their family. Now, when my son was born, I felt many emotions. I remember when I first saw him, I just cried. There were so many emotions there, and I was so happy. And it was a moment of pure presence and bliss, and all of the other emotions mixed together. But it's so wholesome. And the fear that was there was, for me, really needing to be a provider and to step up in that role. My natural tendency is to take it easy in life. And I did need to step more into that. But I also had fears of potentially losing myself, losing the relationship between me and my wife, the fear of not having enough, the fear of losing my freedom for the responsibility that I need to step into. And I see many dads disappear into their jobs. And they're present there in body, but they are absent in presence and in spirit. And this is what our children need. And I didn't want that. So when my first son came, I actually started to have this pressure to feel like I had to work. And it actually brought a lot of conflict between me and my wife. I say a lot, but it brought conflict. And it took a few maybe around 6 months for me to really understand what I wanted to do. Because I always want to look at the long term. And I listen to so many stories from men that I understand what we actually want deep down in a father, because it's so consistent with all of the stories I've heard. So I decided to work less. I decided to work smarter and prioritize my time over money. I worked out my finances, worked out the outgoings, the incomings, and I made sure that the priority was the family and being present with my wife and with my son. And that rolled over when my daughter came as well. So I started saying no to projects from the external, but also within me, because I have such a strong drive to do something, whether it's a breathwork project or a men's work project or a construction project. There has to be some project that I want to be working on. And that's very healthy for men, and it's very good for men to step into what they believe is helping this world. But we have to recognize when we are stepping too far and neglecting the ones that actually need and love us the most. Many people asked, "How are you living?" And when I told them how many hours I was working, how much I did, they struggled to believe it because they were in the full-time work and they were in that cycle of doing the thing. And it was hard for them to comprehend. They were questioned a lot, and they were actually concerned that I wouldn't be able to provide. But I always think, and this is when I started to look into death, I find death can be such a powerful teacher. And I always think, when I'm on my deathbed, will I wish I had taken that extra client? Do I wish I'd taken that extra project? And the answer is no. Like, when I'm on my deathbed, I wish that I spent intentional time and presence with my children and my family. So I chose that because it felt right. I went to my body. I was doing somatic practices to feel my body and feel what was right, what made me feel closed and what made me feel open. The mind can lead us down a path of fear. It also has the logical sense, and it can bring a lot of healthy aspects. But the body knows the true answer. And it's not about being perfect. It's purely about being intentional with our time and how we are showing up. When you have that space in between meetings, show up for your kid. I chose a life that I could work from home most of the time. I chose a life that I could work hard a few weeks a year. I chose a life where I could live somewhere where the work-life balance is, in my opinion, more healthy. And I actively made these decisions happen. It wasn't by luck. I chose intentionally. And I let go of all the fear, of all the belief systems, of all the societal beliefs that were restraining to keep in the system. And I'm so glad I did it. Best thing I did. I intentionally chose my path. I knew from a very early on that time is way more precious. And who I spend that time with is way more precious. Now, for men, it is wired deep inside of us. Survival, legacy, protection, provide. But when provision becomes obsession, it will start to backfire. You will start to become a workaholic. You will start to have more conflict with your partner. You will start to become resentful. You will be stressed. You will be reactionary. We work harder to feel more worthy, just to prove we are enough. But the reality and the irony in that belief is the more we chase the security through work, the more we lose the very thing we are trying to protect. And that's connection with our kids and our wife. Fear of commitment, loss of freedom, they're real. And like it happens. Like when you're going into kids, you are going to lose some part of your freedom because you're stepping in to building a family, you're building a kingdom. And with that there's responsibility. You need to step up in many areas. And it may feel uncomfortable and weird and strange. But this is where the real growth happens, by stepping in to that edge, using the practices that we know help us, using the somatic practices, using a network of men that we trust. This is where the real growth will happen. And I was researching how, just around fatherhood and what's a good amount of time to be with kids, and there's no real solid evidence there and what it should be. But one fact that, and a stat that did jump out at me, was that on average, and this will be more in the Western world, on average, fathers spend 42 minutes per day with their children. And this is across multiple different countries, UK, US, Australia, and other parts of Europe. And I just found that insane. It's such a minute amount of time with our kids. It's 42 minutes. Literally like listening to 2 episodes of the podcast. Absolutely nothing. And most of that time, there's probably no eye contact, no play, no presence, just the coexistence. Same room, different worlds. Now, I don't want to go down the aspect of shaming, because I understand why men go there and why people choose that path. I completely understand. Before I had family, before I had kids, before I was living in Bali, before I was doing my own business, like I was in that system. I understand how easy it is to go down that path. Phone in hand, mind on work. We're tired physically. We don't want to connect emotionally because we find it tiring and uncomfortable at times, especially if we're stressed and the partner's stressed. But let's be honest, that's not fatherhood. It's just babysitting with benefits. And people say it's not how much time you spend, it's the quality. And yes, quality absolutely matters. Absolutely. There's no question about that, and about being present during those moments as well. But you can't have quality without quantity. Like, presence is a muscle, and it grows with practice. And 42 minutes a day is not enough. You're just deregulating your system. You've just got home. There's no time to be really fully present and step in how you really want to be with your kids and your wife. And you can't go 42 minutes to a deep connection overnight. It's going to take time, and you need to work on extending that time length. So just start small, but start now. Like, put down the phone, get on the floor and ask the kid, tell me something that funny happened today. And if they can't speak, Play with them, engage with them. That's how, as men, that's the best thing we can do for our kids is play. Get all the chemicals going, even from a very early age. From 0 to 3, they're typically with the mother a lot. They're very attached, and that's very healthy. But as men, we can step in and help where we can and also play. And you'll see the smile, and it's literally the best thing you can do. There's nothing else that can bring so much peace and contentment in this world by making your own child laugh. And this is where the bond builds. Now, I work 5 days a week, 4 to 6 hours a day maximum. Not because I can't do more. I absolutely could do more. And internally, there's a feeling and also a lot from the mind that I should be doing a lot more. And I have to actively work on that. And it's because I choose to do less so that I can be more for my kids and for my wife. I work smart, efficient, and I let go of the busy work. I prioritize my time. Every time my son goes to play school, okay, these 4 hours, purely for work. Outside of that, I go pick him up and we play. I make sure that my mornings and evenings are shut off. From time to time, yes, there's meetings that have to be worked around. But it's only last case scenario. But they are priority for my family. And this isn't lazy. It's absolutely not lazy. Many men might be listening thinking it is. And I don't care. I know it's not. It's actually harder for me internally to do this than it is for me to go to work and sit at the desk and do my thing. It's much easier for me to do this. So for me to intentionally step away is the hard work. And that is where leadership comes in. That's where discipline comes in. And leadership at home starts with boundaries at work. Now, time doesn't magically appear. You have to intentionally make it. You have to cut one meeting. You have to say no to that project. You have to wake up earlier, 30 minutes, 1 hour, whatever it means. Before kids, I used to meditate during the day, evening, whenever I could, really. But now, my practice is 4:30, 5 a.m. in the mornings, because those are the times that I get for myself to regulate myself and helps me to stay present when my son does get up. Sometimes it's an hour-long practice, sometimes it's a 30-minute practice, sometimes it's not a practice because he's woken up before me. But you have to carve out the time for yourself and then use that time. Breakfast with your kids, make it intentional. A walk after dinner, bedtime story, eyes open, voices warm. Reading the story to my son at night is the best feeling that I could ever ask for. And nothing else matters in that moment. Your kids won't remember the money. They will not care about the money. They'll remember the way you looked at them, you hugged them when they were crying, you held space for them when they were angry, and you loved them unconditionally. Fatherhood isn't clean. It's sticky hands, loud noises, interrupted calls. Let it be messy, but let it be real. Your kids don't need a perfect dad. They need one who shows up, even when they're tired and even when they're unsure. They want to see the real you. They want to see your truth. And they want to see your presence. They want to look into your eyes and see that smile. Ask yourself, when I'm on my deathbed, what will matter? Will it be the deal I closed, the car I bought, or the way I made my child feel when I walked in the room? Because that is what stays. The love, the presence, and the safety. Everything else fades. If you're a dad, or you want to be a dad, ask, am I leading this role or avoiding it? Are you using work to escape the vulnerability of being seen by your child or by your wife? Or are you choosing to be there, not perfectly, but fully? So try this week. 1 full hour, phone off, no distractions, just you and your kid. Play, talk, sit in silence. And when your mind drifts to work, which it probably will at the beginning, just bring your awareness back through the breath. Say, I'm here. This is what matters. Practice deep breathing into the belly. Generally, I feel it in my chest. And I get a little bit anxious when I start thinking about work. And it distracts me from being present. And when I come back to breathing techniques, that's what helps me the most. Thank you for listening. This is Anthony Ball. And this is Working on It podcast. Please subscribe on Spotify and on YouTube. You can follow me on Instagram at workingonit.menspodcast. Keep showing up, not just as a provider, but as a father. See you next time.